focus for you. We could get the lights down or something. Or does that show up all right for you?
It'll probably be better if the lights were down a bit. Oh, that's good.
That's better.
Is that better for you?
Yep.
Was it good for you?
If we ask it to do something, like go to here, go to the bees, right? You'll notice it's getting it, right? And it gives you like a little meter. Can you see tomorrow? Right. Gives you a little meter here. And then it says when it's finished, it's done. So it's pretty important to wait till it's finished, right? Even if it takes a while. So like, be cool, you know, and just...
No, I was just going to get a shot of you talking to the young girl.
We'll just pretend we're talking, eh? We'll pretend we're really interested.
Launched this first time ever dictionary onto the world internet, and I'm just thrilled that they choose our language rather than any other dialect in the country. So once again, thank you very much. We have quite a number of people that we need to acknowledge in regards to this Kamilaroi language. But we, working from a school perspective, they didn't get off the ground, so to speak. They were left, like a lot of other things that's done with Aboriginal education, they in the past have been left on the shelf to gather dust. So they've found some money to come up with this type of initiative, and for that we need to thank very much David Nathan, who did all the work. And he wants to sit in the background, but he's not. We also have to thank the Department of School Education for their contribution to this wonderful program. And I'd just like to introduce Mrs. Lynette Shue, who was the District Superintendent for this region, and who's going to speak on behalf of the DSA. And thanks, Lynette.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's an enormous pleasure for me to be here today to welcome you to what I think is a landmark. It's particularly appropriate that this dictionary is being launched here in Kamilaroi country. It's the place that it should be in. And it's tremendous to see the interest of the Aboriginal community, of the schools and the other people who are here to see the launch. It's been a tremendous project and it's still ongoing. It's going to be a tremendous support to our schools as we continue to support the education of Aboriginal students in our schools, as well as making sure that Aboriginal culture is preserved for the future, for other students who are coming through. This district has got the highest number of students enrolled in our schools, and it's fitting therefore that we've made this push in Aboriginal education. Most of our schools are now teaching Aboriginal studies to both Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal students, because it's a heritage that we should all know about. Now, the launch of the dictionary has been a cooperative venture, and it is aimed at preserving something that is very important. The project has brought together members of the Aboriginal community who have a valuable traditional knowledge and others who have technological knowledge to ensure the preservation of the language. And in this district, we have the only one that relates to an Aboriginal language. And we will have a teacher appointed in the language project. There's still some ground to cover, but what you're seeing today and the support that's been given by the Education Department of our tradition. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lynn. What we are going to do now is call up two very special people. One is a very dear friend, and whom I respect and love very dearly. She is one of only a number of people that we have who can still speak the language. And my other dear friend from down the other side of our border, who can actually speak our language, he has agreed to join us today to share with us this launch. So I'd like Auntie Rose and Uncle Ted to come up and officially what they're going to do is welcome and greet and launch in our language, not this white fella's way of doing things, eh?
First off, it's our language, and we're going to welcome you in our language. So can we have these up? This is just for you. This is going to be the way to go. We always said it was going to beat us, and it's here to stay. But always remember, you went away to learn all these things. Please come back.
We only had one session to learn about this, and the technology side of it is also, it's pretty new, and as you might notice, we've got a long cable that goes around here and upstairs and so on, so we've got just a sort of fairly fragile setup, but if you bear with us, I'm sure you'll enjoy what you see.
What should we do? Should I sort of talk
You
through it?
talk through it.
Okay, well, when you come to this dictionary, this is what you'd see first. Well, I must say we had a bit of a panic beforehand. Firstly, we couldn't get a very good line, and secondly, we just a dictionary. It's got a bit of a live flavour, a bit of a sort of media flavour as well, and you can have things. Sure, because people can see this in different places, that they know where the language belongs and who the people are. Sorry? Oh, right. I wonder, is it possible for you to duck down, or the main part of it, the way that this World Wide Web works, it's part of the internet, but this particular part of it, it makes it very easy to use. It makes it good to look at and easy to use. All the things that you see there in red, if you click on those, it takes you to somewhere else. So if you want to look at the dictionary, then you'd be choosing, say, oh, I want to look at words beginning with B or D or whatever. Do you want to choose one of those, Mary? Okay, so you can see how easy it is to sort of move through, and many places in the dictionary there's this sort of control panels, so you can find other words. And basically it's very similar to that book that Tom mentioned, but this gives it a whole new life. If you want to just down and then look it up in another place, all you have to do is click on that word and it'll take you to what you're looking for. Arrived there at the top of the screen for us. Using that sort of software, and I know lots of people use computers, but nobody has yet applied this to a dictionary on the web. And it's a shame that such and such. So sometimes we do need to go into it through English. So what we've got here is also a finder list. I think we should swap them. What that allows you to do is say, all right, I want to know the word for tree or Joanna or whatever.
Isolate? Are we able to look up that?
Sorry?
Isolate.
Isolate.
Yeah.
Well, we can try.
Or remote or something. The reason I ask is that we've had a query from a guy who's setting up a cricket camp for young Aboriginal people.
Right.
And
that's what you're going from. So what are we going to look for? Remote.
Remote? Yeah. Thanks.
And it didn't tell us anything. Okay, so we did find a word there, distant, pretty close to what Simon and Morris were asking about. Now you might say, okay, we found those two words. We want to look at actually the proper dictionary entry. And like before, all you have to do is click on the word and it'll drop you into the dictionary. Yeah? So turned what used to be a book pretty dull into a much more interesting machine.
Is it possible to hear it on with the voice thing on the computer?
Not yet. It's becoming technically possible to be able to click, say, on any of these words. Straight dictionary. This is only one part of the whole picture. That's built into this. This is not something you just publish and stop. This has got to be alive, and this has got to be sort of responsive to the community, and it can grow that way. Maybe you should show people sort of information about sounds or something, Damien, to give them an idea what's there.
All right. Just got yourself today.
I'm just thinking this down to take out Timber, so just get your name and where you're from.
Tom French, I'm employed by the Department of School Education as a community liaison officer. I'm based in Moree.
That's fine. Alrighty. Tell us a bit about the internet program.
Well, it originally came about because of the two books that had previously been produced by Peter Austin. And like all books, not many people read them these days. That just gathered dust on the shelves and that. And, well, the Institute came up with this idea, and David Nathan was employed to do all the technical work, develop the program and put it into its current form. It makes it a lot easier for not only for students but for everyone to access.
How common is this sort of thing being taught in schools and just in public in general?
Well, it hasn't been taught previously. What we tried to do in the past was develop our own program with regards to Aboriginal language. And the board or the department made money available last year for languages other than English. And Aboriginal languages wasn't a part of that. So we looked at our region in particular, because outside of the metropolitan area we have the largest enrollment of kids in New South Wales. And we thought that we wanted, especially for communities like Toomla, Bongala, which is really isolated, to try and give them something that would keep the kids interested in the school. Because in those sorts of communities, the dropout rate is really high. And we looked at language, Gamilaraay language in particular. So we, in conjunction with a number of elders, held meetings, workshops. We've got a package together now where we hope to eventually, late this year, early this year, teach Gamilaraay language in either Toomla or Bongala, or preferably both of those schools, using community people as well as DSE people.
And how important is this language in the recording and teaching this language to the community?
It's very important. For myself, I feel that you look at our young kids today, they walk around lost. There's no respect there anymore. And within the Aboriginal culture, that was a big part of their culture, respect. And they're in trouble with the police, they're in trouble with the council, they're in trouble with just about everybody. Because they're walking around lost, they can't identify. And if we got the language, we can give them some of the language back to them, then they can start to identify. And hopefully, we'll get them away from the path that they're walking down now. It can only lead to destruction.
Well, how much of the culture and language is still held in those schools?
This is really
very little.
Really
Very little. What you're seeing here, or what we're seeing here today on the dictionary, is a combination of a lot of years of hard work, recording, going back to
there's books.
trying to revive what was done, what was lost. We have, I think, about 7 Aboriginal people left until they can speak the language, and they're the ones that have been working with us locally to develop our program. So hopefully we will get enough of the language there to get people interested in it. And that way, hopefully, we can go back further. No, not really. Just covered everything.
Alrighty. Thanks very much. I haven't got a journalist today, so I'll get you your name, rank and serial number first.
Okay. I'm Dave Nathan, and I'm visiting research fellow at the Institute of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Studies in Canberra.
Alrighty, David.
just tell us a bit about the internet program and how it's come about?
All right. Well, it really came from two sides. And one side was the community side and the original work that Peter Austin did with people in the community to put the dictionary together. So we had that dictionary, but as Tom said, he wasn't all that excited. On the other side, the internet is really coming on strong around the country, and Aboriginal people and Aboriginal organisations are using it increasingly, and we thought it would be really important to get a start on getting Aboriginal content into the internet and try to promote as much as possible Aboriginal participation in it.
Right. And how much work's gone into setting this all up?
On the technical side, well, we're using our own unique approach to this, and that's why it is a unique dictionary on the internet. There's nothing else like it. We actually take the original material and then computer generate this version. So there's a couple of months of late nights computer programming to put that together.
Right. Now,
that's right, you can edit it out later.
oh, yeah. Totally lost.
That's right.
What do we... That's right. This is just going to be a starting point for this particular program. Where to from here?
Well, we've had lots of talk while we're up here about what sort of projects could go from here. From the community's point of view, it's not an end point, it's a beginning point. And once we get skills transfer across to people in the community, there's almost unlimited amount of things that can be done with this. I guess one of the best things would be to use the technology as a link between young people at school and their elders. So they're, for example, doing a school project and you have to go out and perhaps find out something from their grandmother and maybe record something, put that into a project at school. And so this new technology opens up all that sort of possibility that wasn't there when you just had ruled books and pens.
And this is, I guess, could be also used as a teaching aid throughout Australia. You're saying there, throughout schools, people
Yeah. Here, I think as Tom mentioned, it's going to be used as part of quite serious teaching programs. It's got to be delivered with Aboriginal participation because the language doesn't stand by itself, it needs the sort of cultural wrapping around it. But because it's a dictionary, other people can look at it as well, and it's quite open to people to have a look. They have to obviously respect the language and they have to acknowledge where it comes from. But amongst non-Aboriginal people, I think they'll find it quite interesting to have a look and see how rich and how complex Gamilaraay, like all Aboriginal languages, really is.
Now you've been also researching a lot of other languages throughout Australia, the Aboriginal.
Well, down at the Institute we do that sort of work. I personally am more in the sort of delivery and implementation by computer side of things rather than the research.
So how many more of the languages can we expect to see on the internet in the future?
Well, I'm working with, I won't say who, I'm working with some people in another state on a joint project, and if that goes through, we'll be pushing the boundary a little bit further in that what we'll be talking about there is not just a dictionary using this technology, but it'll be handed over to the community and will be published from their own website. So that'll be that'll provide the model that we'd like to see from the future, where the information is not only about the language but coming out from the country where the language belongs to.
Right. Now, if people want to access this sort of information, how do they go about it?
Well, they can look at the Coombs site at the ANU. If they've already been looking at the internet, they might know that that's a site where there is a lot of Aboriginal material. The best way, perhaps if they haven't come across any of that before, would be simply to use one of the net search facilities. Netscape search, for example, and type in the name of the language, type in Gamilaraay, and it'll tell you where to go from there.
Beauty. I expect covered everything, haven't it? Sensational. Thanks, Dave.
No worries. Thank you.
So you back up in English, math, and geography. With the maths, we start off with the maths. Yeah, on your disc, you've got the tribal boundaries, and you work out, okay, you're the elder, like the operator is the elder. He's going to work out how much, or he's given allocated how much land. He's going to work out how many people you can have on the land, like in his tribe. He's going to work.
The official launch of the Kamilaroi dictionary on the internet is seen as an honour for the local community. It was chosen out of hundreds of Aboriginal dialects across Australia to be the first to get online.
2 years ago we started to develop a language program, a Kamilaroi language program, to trial at either Boggabilla Central School or Toomlas Primary School.
Kamilaroi is the second largest Aboriginal nation in New South Wales. Its inclusion on the internet means that more than 200 kilobytes of information about its dialect will be on offer. The combination of tradition and modern technology was welcomed by local people.
The reason we wanted to do it was to make it accessible to not only Aboriginal people in Australia, but people all over the world.
It will be available for Aboriginal and non-Aboriginal people alike.
Well, the easiest way for them to find it would be to use one of the net search facilities and just type in the language name, just type in Gamilaraay, and they should come up with a link to it.
If the trial is a success, the facility will be expanded to include most of the primary schools in the North West District. Vanessa Spark, NBN News.